Let those notifications go out. It is Truth Seeker Podcast Live Day. Remember, I tell y'all, God willing, around 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Okay? So if we're a couple minutes early or a couple minutes late. Now, if we're going to be more than a few, 5 minutes or so, if we're going to be later than that, I will let y'all know in the YouTube community tab. That's why I highly encourage y'all to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss those. That's how it's just the easiest way to keep all y'all informed and motivated, and we are sharing more things in the community tab in this season now. Muscle food, muscle health, all of that, all part of combating radio frequency for healthier living. And I have got something to share with you all, another God revelation while I was shopping today. But I want to wait for some of y'all to get those notifications and be rolling on in here. It had to do with the radio frequencies, yes, and it had to do with the how the frequencies affect our bodies. But we have to remember that you have to have the right criteria on the inside of your body for that to be effective. And so it let me realize all this time, because for those who may not know it, the Jezebel case study, yeah, she used a glass. She whacked open the back of my head. I had to have staples put in there. And so once those fell out after it healed, okay, so there's a nice little, just a little area there, but above it, there's some, you would call it like, it's like having a knot in a muscle. Some air pockets there. And I didn't realize why. Just hold on a minute. I am Michelle Dickey, your host for CHA's Truth Seeker Podcast, streaming on the YouTube channel Narcissism and Cognitive Dissonance, where trauma healing and spiritual growth are front and center while combating radio frequencies for healthier living. And we are going to talk about how narcissists take everything personally. But I got to share with you all this God revelation today. It was amazing. It was amazing. And I said, all this time, it's been almost 2 years, well, not quite, about 18 months now. And I said to myself, okay, so why is this still occurring? Why is this? And we figured out that she got a hold of some jabs, and that's what she put inside my body, because it doesn't make any sense for sodium alone to have caused a lot of these things to linger as long as they have, and for my body to keep reacting in certain ways. I'm very aware. And I said, okay, because mercury responds to the high frequency. Okay, thallium responds to the low frequency. Okay, well, how would thallium, mercury we get with dental work? Okay, so I kind of didn't really think about that. But then when you think about, okay, and I'm not, be careful with what you say, because YouTube will hold your comments. Okay, that's why I'm using slang, if you will, for it. But that's what she did. She put those toxins directly into my bloodstream while I was unconscious. She had to. There's no other explanation, because when I look at my metal toxicity duration of effect, bruises heal. And so I was like, that's gonna happen. But she put the bruises in certain places. And now we know why. And she made sure that they were in very specific places. Because, that would cause the metal, the graphite, the salts that's inside those things are what responds to radio frequency. Because remember that the salts, different metals on the inside of the body are magnets for radio frequencies. And so it made better sense for these symptoms to continuously be like they on a cycle, like on a loop, and I was like, why? This does not make sense. This should be long gone by now. And so the Lord revealed it to me. He said, no, he says, because she put some stuff in you, the toxins in you necessary to cause all of that, to cause a lot of nervous system discomfort, which is what caused my glutes to get a little bit out of alignment, if you will. But God's on the job. We discovered all of that. And I shared with y'all on the Patreon channel what the level up was with some protein powder that the Lord had me get, because we needed to fill in some spaces, fill in some spots where she put dimple, okay? Yes, she sure did. All she had to do was just barely press to leave a little bit of a bruise, and then to leave a dimple, because that's where air pocket would stay. And air pocket will keep the circulation slow, okay? And it can even really hinder it in some areas, depending on how deep the dimple was. It's like the oxygen being sucked out from the inside will cause that dimple. But anyhow, today I want to share with y'all, because when the Jezebel case study used the glass that she spiked to put a wound there, and I had to get that. Wait, they put, and my subconscious was awake. I heard the staple. I heard them talking. I felt the staple gun. So it's like I was awake. My consciousness wasn't, but my subconscious was awake. And I remember it. God made sure that I would remember that, because some people were trying to tell me that the staples weren't there, and I knew they were. So it's like I was awake. Okay, there. Yes, hello Javon, hello Chris, welcome everybody, welcome. Okay, all y'all, and so real quick, today, I'm in Walmart, and I was trying to figure out why. I said, okay, we're finally getting the locus of control. You see what I'm talking about here, right? On my heels and all that, with the glutes. And I got your comment about that, Chris, on the Patreon channel. I'm going to get back to you. And I agree with you that the glutes can be hard to maintain if you are, if you are in a full-time sit-down job. And over time, it can. But see, that's why yours truly prefers to stand. I've been like that for many years. Okay? But anyhow, that being the case, okay, what she did, put bruises in places, trying to make it difficult for me to sit or stand. So she was trying to cause me to become uncomfortable in my own skin. Well, that didn't work. But the re-traumatization of my autonomic nervous system, which, by the way, y'all, yeah, we good. We better than good. We more than good now. Okay, I have to tell y'all, oh man, it's been quite the journey. But I was trying to figure out why things kept cycling, like certain RF symptoms, the radio frequency symptoms. I said, this should be long gone. Well, that's when we realized Jezebel case study had to get additional metal toxin in me first, then put the bruises in my hands, shoulders, knees, ankles, right? And then, of course, she used one of them thigh toners. I saw the pattern, okay, on the back of my, where the bruising was. I saw the pattern, okay? Anyway, and then toilet seats, everything that she had just pushed a little bit and put bruises. And I said, why that many bruises? I mean, why? Because with bruising in place, that would hold those other metal toxins, aside from sodium, it would hold them in longer. Because our body is designed by God to eliminate what it doesn't want and what it doesn't need. And so the Jezebel case study needed to try and prolong all of those RF symptoms over and over and over, and trying to prevent the healing, and trying to get me dependent on all kinds of different doctors, when I said, no, his name is Jesus, thank you very much, we good. And that's why we're figuring all this out. So I'm at Walmart today, and I was trying to figure out why some of those symptoms were just continuously, repeating themselves, because they're finally dissipating. And so I get the cart and I walk into Walmart. I know about the extreme temperature change for the nervous system and circulation, okay? We're fully aware of that. And so I said, okay, so what's going on here? I said, well, I noticed as I'm in the store and I've got my list, okay, I had to get some props for a radio frequency demonstration for you all. See, that's another thing. Thank you for those of you who are helping to fund with our fundraiser, and you're helping to fund this ministry, because that's where they're going. I was able to get a few things for a demonstration okay, some prop. And so I'm looking for those, and I said, okay, so, and as I go to the other side, because there are a couple of fruit items, and I need to get some baggies, you know how it goes. So I said, all right, so now I'm walking to the other side of the store, and I noticed there was this pull to the right side of my body. I noticed, I said, wait a minute, because the cart was not difficult to push at all. What was happening, that's right. And then I feel it, I was like, oh my gosh. I said, there's some air pockets right there. I said, no wonder. So because where there's air pockets, inside the air pocket, there's going to be a little bit of it'd be kind of like a bead, if you will, of salt water, and it's inside the air pocket. And so it's serving as a magnet for the frequency. So what was happening was it was pulling it. Yes, I felt it. I was like, oh my gosh, that's it. Because I was trying to figure out how my muscles, it's like my right side, because we use the muscle frequently because we're predominantly right-handed, but then the left side, there's some well, it's just taking a little bit longer for the left side of the body to heal, catching up with the right side of the body. I was trying to figure out why. Now I know why. This whole time, everywhere that I have gone, where the high frequencies, because mercury, now right, we have dental fillings, right? There's mercury in there, okay, but that by itself would not do this. That by itself would not have this kind of effect. So I'm walking through, I'm pushing the buggy, and all of a sudden I feel the pull on the right side. And yes, I'm predominantly right-handed, everything. So I can write with the left hand. It's going to take a while. Okay, it'll take a while. It might take me about an hour to write the letter M. Anyway, my point is, I felt it, and I felt it right here. And I said, wait a minute, hold up a second, because I could feel the pull, which means this whole time as I'm walking and stuff, if I wasn't fully aware yet, there's layers of salt water that we've had to get out of this body, and that's what part of the detox is. So now we're finally at a layer where I can tell this stuff. Hold up a minute. What's that? Okay. A lot of hot salt water has finally exited the building, if you will. And so now I'm like, okay, and I feel it pulling on the right. And I said, that makes sense. So everywhere I've gone, grocery shopping or wherever it is I've gone, and if I'm around that much frequency, apparently it was pulling, unbeknownst to me, it was pulling just enough at the right side, right, taking locus of control of my muscle away from the left side, which would cause me to not really use the muscles on the left side of my body. But if I were to use them, I would use them incorrectly, and over time that would lead to an imbalance. You see? Because that was a big part, trying to throw my body, my physical body, off balance. Because, well, she wanted to try and cause, you know how the Matrix wants to cause injuries all the time. And so that's what it was today, that God revealed it to me. I said, okay. Because when God reveals things like that to me, I know where I need to self-care. That just means that there was a little bit, air pockets right there. And so we just got to, give it time. And wow, but that's what radio frequency can do, but you have to have an extreme amount. In other words, what happened is over time, some of the salt, okay, from the mucus and you name it, sitting there just getting heated, just getting cooked every single time it was exposed to LED lights up top, and then the high frequency. That tells me that mercury was up there, and then of course we know aluminum crosses the blood-brain barrier real quick too, aluminum. So of course there's some of that in there, obviously, because if she used those thingies with the needle, yes, then that means that those graphites were in there. And so once those get out, right, all of that is it's gone. We're dealing with mostly sodiums. Okay, the different sodium now, and then I can tell maybe a little bit of aluminum and mercury up in here, in those air pockets. And so, because the mercury is aluminum responds to both high and low frequency. For those who didn't know that, now you do. I found that out, that aluminum responds to both, that combination. It's the aluminum mostly. If you've got a lot of aluminum in your brain and that high low frequency bzzz, acts as a buzzer, that's what numbs the mind. That's what numbs it up there. That's what keeps your circulation at a, like a working, only just enough to keep you working, but right, you're not going to be as productive. You're going to be drained of physical energy all the time, and you're going to be more easily tempted by the devil. It becomes more difficult to resist the devil's temptations. And I realized that because, see, what I did is I went and I had a nice, decent lunch before I went. So I knew I was full. I was good. But it didn't take too long after being in there because of this, starting to heat up with the frequencies. It was trying to trick my mind into thinking I was hungry again all of a sudden. I said, oh, no, you don't. I said, but I see how they do it. I see how they do it. And I said, no, I said, we've got food back in the room. And I said, yeah. And so we put a nice big plate of fruit, okay, of fruit and veggies together. Then we pull that out. If that heat in the area is trying to trick me into, I just ate a good meal. I had a little salad, some soup. I had some fried chicken livers. Come on now. I said, nah, we good. And some spinach. So I said, no, we had good lunch. We good. So walking through the store, there's no reason why I should have been hungry. I wasn't hungry. The radio frequency was heating that up, trying to trick me into thinking. This is why I tell y'all, our movement pushing back against this radio frequency for healthier living, that's a big part of it right there, is to be aware of when that's happening to you. And so that's why I said, no wonder if they're pulling on the right side of my body, trying to steal the locus of control of muscles on the left side, from the left side of my body, trying to steal it. Well, we take it back. So we got our 5-pounders, we got our 10-pounders, we got our 15-pounders. We good. All right, we good. So I just wanted to share that God revelation with you about radio frequency. So a little bit of the and more comes first, but I had to share that. It's a truth. Okay, it is a fact, a true blue experience, and not something that we would be readily aware of if we don't know, right? So that's why I got to tell y'all when these things are happening, because I mean, I'm having to detox, so I said, why not turn myself into a case study? Why not let myself be the guinea pig? Because apparently I am, and I'm just very, very aware. Some would think that I'm overly sensitive. No, it will go away. It's not going to continue to do that once all of this is out of the, once all of the air pockets, especially the air pockets, are gone, that have been there for a while, once they're gone, circulation can remain normal, and going into stores not going to have that effect on me anymore. Because we just became aware of it. I remember I tell y'all that. Once you become aware of what's happening regarding the radio frequency, it had to let go, because what you do is you are reminding your ANS, your autonomic nervous system, oh, it has work to do there. That's what you're doing, because you become aware of it, so you don't know that. That's part of how your ANS is still a little bit asleep in some areas. And so when you become aware of, whoa, okay, why is that? Oh, it's pulling because there's still this here. Then my ANS was like, oh, okay, I got it, Mama. It's like, oh. She wakes up there and gets to work. I ain't got to do nothing else except become aware of it. Same thing for y'all. We don't have to do nothing but just become aware. And the ANS will kick back in right there and start doing what it's supposed to do, what God designed it to do for healing. So, glory be to God. Yes. And, okay, you got a YouTube video, how to protect from microwaves, electrical conductive material to act as a barrier to the microwaves. Okay. Let me think about that for a moment. Because I'm thinking about the heat factor that's associated with radio frequencies and things like that. Because, yeah, there's a lot of heat involved. which is a big thing for the devil and the matrix. It wants to keep the body's internal heat as high as possible, because that means you'll be creeping unawares, and you'll be more likely to not be able to resist the devil's temptation. So you'll be out there eating all kinds of junk rather than making healthier decisions, like I did today. So that's what I'm telling y'all. While I was there, and because it was getting heated up, trying to trick me into thinking that I was hungry again. And I'm going through and I'm seeing all this, I'm going through the frozen section. I'm seeing all these frozen pizzas and stuff, and I'm like, no. I went straight. I found my frozen veggies I was looking for, because I'm going to use those to make some superfood. Oh, thank you for your patience regarding cooking demos on the Patreon channel. By the way, we hang tight, okay? Thank you for your patience. Just hang tight. But we got a different way to do our superfood using frozen veggies, because of the small space living and the different way that we're going to have to prepare and cook and put that together. It's like camping. So it's really intriguing, and this is going to be fun, okay? It's going to be a short season like this, but it will be fun. And I'm looking forward to bringing it to you all there. Now, that being said, I get the frozen vegetable, and I'm like, I'm resisting the devil the whole time, because I'm like, yeah, you're sitting there trying to trick my mind and trying to trick me into thinking I'm still hungry. I just ate a full plate of food, a good amount of the salad, and some soup. I said, no, we good. Plus, I had a few French fries. Come on now. My stomach's only this big. No, I said, we good. And and then I'm looking, and then I go down the ice cream aisle, and I'm like, no, you don't eat that stuff. Go straight, get your all natural fruit popsicles. You good? I said, I want the mango flavor. That's what we got, the mango flavor. I said, that's what we gonna get. I said, I said, no, not getting tricked into thinking I just ate. So I'm like, no, we're not falling for it. Okay, so what I had, I think I just shared what I had for lunch. A little bit of salad, had some spinach, a few French fries, a piece of barbecue chicken. It was a chicken thigh. And then I had maybe a handful of fried chicken livers. And then a small bowl of clam chowder soup. Okay, and then just a salad with some egg, olives, tomatoes, beets. That's right, okay. So there you go. I had that. And then, yes, really, there you go. Physical exercise is a big help to combat radio frequency poisoning. Yes, muscle food, because your muscles really are a huge target for that radio frequency, y'all. Yeah, the devil wants to take away your physical strength. So you got to think about muscle food, food in general, but think muscle food, okay? I want y'all to write that down in your journal. As part of the combat against radio frequency, muscle food, think muscle food. I want y'all to write this down. Pumpkin seeds. If you can find them unsalted, please get them unsalted. Sunflower seeds, write that down. Spinach, write that down. Kale, write that down. Eggs, write that down. Berries, strawberries, okay, berries, strawberries, raspberry, blueberries, blackberry, berries, write that down. Oats, write that down. Oats, like granola, oatmeal, oats, whole grain. Write down whole grains. We're talking about muscle food here, y'all. And then creatine, creatine. Creatine, and I believe it's monohydrate. Okay, you'll see creatine monohydrate. And you can find it either at 3 grams per scoop or 5 grams. I do the 5. Okay, 5 grams. That's muscle food. Now, when you do the creatine, you got to make sure look at that list of muscle food, make sure you got some of that on hand at all time. Because when you first get started on that creatine, you're going to be hungry. But you got to think muscle food. And then, of course, protein powder if you need to. Depends on your goals. But you got to think muscle food, healthier eating, and then fruits and veggies, cherry tomatoes, grapes, pineapple, apple, grapefruit. I mean, the list the list is long, but y'all get my point here, okay? So keep that stuff written down. Keep it on. Keep some of that, like spinach. Let's say you've got spinach and strawberries and granola on hand at all times. Good. That's good enough. That's good enough. You ain't gotta like go buy the whole store full of all that stuff. I'm just saying you gotta have a little bit of that, okay? Or if you just got some, you don't have spinach, but you got kale, and then drizzle some honey over that. It's really good. And then salmon. Any animal protein is huge, not just for cognitive functioning, but, and animal fat. Oh, animal fats is also good for your joints, okay? Yeah, I forget where I learned that, but honestly, I've known it for years. There's a little bit of animal fat, not just for your cognitive function, but for your joint. It's like a lubrication of sorts for your joints. Your body knows where to put that stuff. And it don't take much. Remember, a little goes a long way. I want y'all to drop that in the comments below. A little goes a long way. That's abundance. A little goes a long way. Keep that in mind, okay? So, but you're right. And then physical activity. Stay moving. I don't care. Yeah, combating that radio frequency. I don't care. I don't care if you're standing in there and it's like, okay, so you work from home, but you've got time in between whatever task it is, right? To do some stretching, for crying out loud. All you got to stretch. You got to do some physical activity. If you've got some hand weights or sandbags or something like that, there you go. Boom. For a few minutes until the next call comes in. Whatever it is your job is that you're doing at home, you're taking a break. Do some curls. You got to facilitate that circulation. We play a huge role in facilitating our own circulation. Let that sink in. Okay? Yes, we do. We play a huge role in it. So we got to stay active. But yeah, combating radio frequency really is, exercise. Or basically just staying active, really. And making healthier choices when you eat. And eggs are definitely, yes, eggs are not just great for the nervous system, but muscles. Yes, absolutely. Because, well, when you think about your muscles and your nervous system, they go hand in hand, right? Because if you repair the muscle, you repair the nerve. Go figure. So there you go. Yeah, you could do that. I still have your other YouTube documentary that you sent me, Chris. And I'm going to get to it. Okay, I'm going to finally get to it now that we have solidified our strategy. It took about a week for us to get some things squared away. And then, of course, God's revelation about all of that. All right, and so, yes, a little goes a long way. Thank you. Okay, now the boiled egg that I ate for lunch, no, it was crumbled up boiled egg, but it was on my salad. Okay, it's on my salad. Okay, so but yeah, all right. So we covered the and more there. For those of you who are new to this channel and ministry, that's how we roll. We are Holy Spirit led, and the Lord wanted me to reveal a revelation with you first. So now we want to dive into how narcissists take things personally. And see, the reason the Lord had to do that is it tests the spirit. It tests to see how many of y'all going to stay with us for us to get to it. Because I know the Matrix and a lot of online gurus want to tell you that you got to get to your point or get to the point. This is a Truth Seeker podcast live stream. And really everything we do is let's just chat kind of style, right? We're conversational here. We are not following the crowd. And now it depends on the topic. If I do a pre-recorded, yes, we typically do get to the point fairly quickly. Now, when we're live and the Lord put it on my spirit to share that with y'all because it's part of our movement, we got to get that out first. God first, always. When the Holy Spirit says, I need you to share this and I need you to share this first, then we're going to talk about how narcissists take everything personally, because I got some Bible verses here that are relatable, okay, if you will, or in relation to, or they correlate, all right? Yeah, I'm going to slip that one in on you. All right, I got some Bible verses that correlate to how narcissists take things personally, because it in regards to a burden. See, narcissists, they think everything's about them. If it's not about them, they find a way to make it about them. So they take everything personally because they think everything is about them. How crazy is that? They do. They think that whatever it is out there, and let's say another narcissist looks at them funny, they take it personally. They sure do. They get offended very easily. I need y'all to understand something about that. If you are easily offended, then yeah, you're going to be easy to control and manipulate. That's right. It's not just about living in fear that keeps people easy to control and manipulate, but it's also if you are easily offended. See, chosen ones, that's one thing about us, I believe, that was another attribute that I'm not going to say attracted the narcissist, because the devil's going to send a narcissist across our path whenever he sees fit, or he's going to try whenever he feels like it. So I don't really want to use that word, but that attribute is attractive to a narcissist. Once they realize that chosen ones, we really don't. Okay, we don't get easily offended. And I know yours truly, I have not been easily offended for many, many years. When I was younger, there was something because I was younger. You know what I'm saying? When we're young and we don't know yet, we're supposed to outgrow that. And chosen ones, we tend to outgrow a lot of things naturally like we're supposed to, and that's one of them. Because we grow and we evolve even before God awakened us. Yeah, see, I stopped caring what other people think long before the awakening. That's one of the things. And I stopped being easily offended long before the spiritual awakening. Long before God got through that thick skull of mine. Okay? Long before that. So I said, okay. All right, yeah, so easily offended by what? To each his own. I've had that mindset for many years. Because we know that we're not to judge, lest ye be judged, right? So I'm not going to sit here and say, oh my, well, so-and-so is over here doing this, and then I, behind the scenes, I'm doing the same thing. So remember, God talks about that. Recognizing the mote in your own eye. But see, narcissists don't do that. And so they continue to take things personally. They think everything is about them. They think the world revolves around them. I can't even imagine that. I'm like, wow. But they do. And you do have the narcissistic matrix in many ways to thank for that, because it teaches them that. You're going to hear more about how the matrix breeds narcissism via the subconscious mind programming. And we are hitting heavy on that topic in this season. Oh yeah, those of you who have been with us for a while, you know what I'm talking about. Because that's what the matrix does. It needs to program that subconscious mind. Because, well, the devil knows. Get control of that subconscious mind, he can get the illusion of control. He can control your thoughts. Because that's where our thoughts are formed, is in that subconscious mind. And so that's where your renewing of the mind had to take place. Like I've said before, for those who have not heard this, when God tells us in Romans 12 verse 2 to be not conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of the mind, so that we can do that perfect will of God. So the only way that's going to take place is when we don't conform to this world. Because when you conform to this world, then you can't be transformed. Your mind can't be renewed. Because being conformed to this world is living in a comfort zone and refusing anything outside of it, or refusing to learn anything new. Because I'm going to tell y'all, that's a big part of the renewing of the mind. We got to learn new stuff. Because we got to learn God's truths. Because we've been lied to about so many things. We've been lied to about how we're supposed to live, what we're supposed to eat. We've been lied to about a lot of things. That's why we question everything now in God's reality. Questioning everything. Because we know that narcissistic matrix is going to continue to breed narcissists and narcissism. And it's going to continue to trick them into taking everything personally when it ain't about them. It ain't about them. But remember something about narcissists. They're very skilled at making things about them that aren't about them. So, well, you can tell when they're taking things personally. You can see it on them too. They get easily offended. They'll buck up and defend the system. Mm-hmm. Yes. Especially if they have a position, status, or title given to them by the system. And so they're trauma bonded to the system. And if you try to tell them that that system is just an illusion and that it's all part of the dog and pony show on the world stage, y'all know what I'm talking about? That P Matrix, that ain't even real. That's all staged events for the world stage. You know what a stage is, right? Theatric. And so you never know what actor or actress is up there at the podium wearing that silicone mask. You just don't know who it is. That's all over TikTok too, y'all. It ain't a secret. But it is. But they won't believe that. Because they've been trauma bonded to one side or the other. Or the whole game. Okay, the whole game of that P Matrix. Alright? They've been trauma bonded to it. So they continue to go to them little boots and fill out them little bubbles. And they think that they don't have a clue. They being played. Alright? They being played. They're puppets on a string for the puppeteers. Yeah, the only reason that they have any of that going on is because the devil wants to see how many people are still playing the game. That's all. Because whoever it is that wins, they already know that. They already have the winner picked years in advance. Because it's a game. It's a dog and pony show on the world stage. It's a game. It's the game of narcissism. The narcissist, right, and they're trauma bonded to it. So if you try to tell them that's just an illusion, and if you try to tell them, watch out for Project Bluebeam, and if you try to tell them that plane ain't even real, and you try to tell them that when they watching the news media that all that's made up and staged and it ain't even real, if you try to tell them that, they're going to buck up, they're going to defend it. They're going to take that personally because they're trauma bonded to it. Let that sink in. Another reason why we got to break trauma bond and then break trauma bond to the world. So they take everything personally and they want to offload their burden onto whoever will take them. So they want us to take their burden personally. And I'm going to share with y'all in the Bible what God says about that. About those burdens. Because we ain't supposed to be, no. Chosen one, when we come together, I'm going to clarify this because I know some people confused. God is not the author of confusion. Remember that. And so, let me go ahead and check the comments here. We like to keep the conversational flow going. So, well, they are, okay? They are very thin-skinned, and, well, they take everything personally, and you're right. They do. They take themselves very seriously. Great point. Absolutely. It's everything, they think they're funny when they're being perverted. But it's not funny. And they will take everything personally, and they do take themselves extremely seriously. Too serious. That's why you see it inside the Matrix. And I had to, listen, when I first started doing videos, and I saw myself, I had the thing scripted out, and I was talking about what my consulting and coaching sessions are all about, and how they work, stuff like that. That's how we first got started making videos. And then as we continued to make videos, and we started to learn how to edit, and we became a bit more comfortable with it, yours truly has never been camera shy. No. Now, that being said, I just had to get used to speaking again, right? You got to find your own voice. Post-narcissistic abuse, you got to find your voice because the power is in your voice. All right, chosen one, never forget that. That's why a lot of the narcissists always try to silence us, because they can hear the Holy Spirit. They know that there's power in our voice. It's in our voice. And so we don't allow the devil to silence us anymore. We find ways around his resistance all the time. Because we got work to do. That's God's perfect will. So narcissists, when they take everything so seriously, they really do, because they take everything personally. They think that everything that happens is about them. They really do. They think everything that happens in life is about them. They think people are always out to get them because they believe the battle we're in is physical when it's not. They don't understand that we're not wrestling against flesh and blood. They don't get it. They think it's physical because they think life is a competition. So they take everything personally. And that's how they got demonically possessed also. It's because they internalized all those negative emotions. They took them personally. They took, right, they anything that another person would do that's different, they will take that personally. They take offense to it. Anytime you see somebody get easily offended, that means they take everything personally. Because us coming out here, when God said, chosen ones, we are sanctified, we are set apart. Right? So us getting up here and doing things differently, it offends the narcissist. So and that tells us they take everything personally. Of course. So with that being said, chosen ones, we overcome. Okay, when we were younger, yes, some things, but not everything. I can tell you, yours truly, no, it depended, I think, on what it was. I think it depended on, it was seasonal, like everything. But eventually, as we grow and mature, we outgrow those things. We don't take things personally anymore because we realize that this time in this life is not about us. It's about the glory of God. His name is Jesus. That's why I tell y'all, when I find things out here in the matrix that resisting and it's trying to waste God's time, I'm like, we ain't about that now. I said, God said, we got to redeem the time. He said, we're redeeming the time now. He said, no, it's redemption time. No pun intended. But it's time, he said, to redeem the time because the days are evil. So that's what we're doing. We're not going to allow the devil and his resistance out here to waste God's time. No. Not anymore. Because, see, that's what narcissists do. They take everything personally. And so that's how they end up with all the burdens that they have. Think about that for a moment. It's because of those burdens. No, because they take things personally. They have all these burdens that they have. And the burdens that they have are the emotional burdens. All negative emotions. And they want us to take them on. They want us, even including work. Because they're lazy. Narcissists are lazy. They don't want to work that hard. They want things handed to them on a silver platter. Because they think the world owes them something. See, a lot of narcissists, if they have that position, status, or title, and let's say they served in some way, shape, or form, something or other in the matrix, they feel entitled to special treatment and things like that because they feel, well, I did a good service, so I deserve. That's their mindset. It ain't the right mindset to have. God says, He said, we shall not think more highly of ourselves than we ought to. Romans 12, verse 3. But what did God say about them burdens? Right? So let's break that down a little bit. Okay? And so, yeah, narcissists will take everything personally. They don't take us seriously, and they mock and judge. Well, of course. But remember, be not deceived. God is not mocked. And they are definitely quick. And they think that we're mocking them. No, God's the one. God will take care of that. That's in the book of Psalm too. That God will laugh at our enemies. Because they're stupid. I said it. You heard me. So, right, and a lot of them, right, they talk about negative emotions tree and blame at the root of the tree in psychology. Okay, I can see, okay, a negative emotion tree, wow. Okay, I've not seen that, but I don't discount it. Yeah, okay, and so they put blame at the bottom. No, the correct word that should be at the bottom, that is the foundation for all of that, would be fear. So you see, right, man and the physical, they don't want you to understand the fear. That's the foundation for all of this. Okay? And, okay, is a fascination with chosen one or an attraction? Well, let's just say they're obsessed. Okay? See, narcissists become obsessed with chosen one because they don't understand us. They are obsessed with, right, and they hate what they don't understand. So yes, they become obsessed. Okay? Not really fascinated, but obsessed because they don't understand us and they never will. You got to have Jesus. And so you're very correct about that. If Jesus was not real, then why is the devil so anti-Christ and always, why do we live in a world that hates Jesus? Exactly, good point. Okay, now, the narcissists want to offload their burdens. Largely speaking, their emotional burden. That's what they project, right? They project outward all of those negative emotions because they want to see if they can offload them. Exactly. And see where they might stick or who they will stick to. I have referenced peanut butter before, like crunchy peanut butter. It's like they're taking that crunchy peanut butter and they're flinging a spoonful at the wall and they want to see how many peanut will stick to the wall. That's them projecting their negative emotions outward. That's their burden. They're trying to offload their burden. They see it don't work that way. They need deliverance. But again, they got to know that they're demonically possessed. They got to know that they need to be delivered. And then they got to want to be. And a lot of them don't want to be because a lot of them, they like their familiar spirits. I've had one tell me that. Because they truly believe they know how to handle insecurity. They believe they know how to handle depression. They believe they know how to handle those demon spirits. No, they don't. If they knew how to handle them, they would get control of themselves. Hands down. But see, they don't want to because they like those things. They're familiar. They like them because it gets them attention. But God tells us right here in Galatians chapter 6. Okay? Chapter 6, verse 2. Where God says, bear ye one another's burden, and so fulfill the law of Christ. That does not mean that we take on the burden of the evildoers. No. God is talking to us, chosen ones here. When he said, bear ye one another's burden, he's not saying that we need to take on, like, he's not telling me that I got to come and take on Javon. He's not telling me I got to come and take your burden and make them my own. That's not what God's talking about. He's not saying that I got to go take Chris's burden and make them my own. No. He said we bear what God means by bear ye one another and so fulfill the law of Christ. Because we're striving to become more Christ-like. We share with one another in this growing community of spiritual warriors for Christ. We share with each other how we're doing. Okay? How can we help one another? That's what he's talking about. How can we help one another out, but not necessarily take it on? See, the narcissists want us to take their burden and make them our own. God said, no, we are to just bear with one another, understand one another. You know the word, right, the word bear. It doesn't mean to take on. Okay, that's not what God's talking about. But if you have the spirit of religion, that's what they're going to think. That's the way they're going to teach it. They're going to say, well, you're supposed to take on the burden of your brethren. So I'm like, no, that's not what God's talking about here. He said, bear ye one another. In other words, understand. Have that listening ear if you need to. That's why I tell y'all, you can check in with me anytime you need to via email. I will get to you. Absolutely. I'm not going to leave you hanging. You got questions? That's another. Bear ye one another's burden. I'm going to answer your questions. That's another way that I'm bearing your burden. Because that question burdening your mind, you want that question, you want answers. Okay, well, I'm going to bear your burden in that way. I'm not taking it, making it my own. I'm answering your question. Okay? Same thing applies across the board for anything. For trauma healing and spiritual growth. And then getting that education and awareness. We're bearing ye one another's burden in that way. In other words, we're sharing. Okay? As iron sharpens iron, we are sharing but not taking on, okay? Like, I'm not gonna take on your, right? We all have to work out our salvation with the Heavenly Father ourselves and overcoming trauma triggers. See, that's another way that we are bearing ye one another's burden, helping you all overcome trauma triggers, anything associated with trauma, life obstacles, and things like that. Okay? Helping with, it's teamwork. That's what God's talking about. Bear ye one another's burden and so fulfill the law of Christ. That's teamwork. Let's drop that in the comments below. Teamwork. Even on the replay, I want to see it on the replay. Teamwork. Because that's what God's talking about. He's not talking about taking their burden and making them our own, which is what the narcissists want. The evildoers want you to do that. Okay? Because in verse 3, Galatians 6, verse 3 says, for if a man think himself to be something when he is nothing, he deceiveth himself. So narcissists, well, they're going to continue to take things personally because they think that they are something when they are nothing, and they are deceiving themselves. And so we got to be mindful not to do that ourselves. Okay? So we cannot be thinking of ourselves to being something when we are nothing, or we deceive ourselves. It doesn't mean that we're nothing, y'all. You see, a narcissist will take that personally. It ain't personal. That's not, God said, no, it's not a personal thing. But seriously, a good example. If I were to try and sit there and tell you all, because you have to think physical now, all right, thinking physical here for a moment, that if I were to tell y'all that I have a bachelor's in criminal justice and that I was in position with this agency XYZ when I'm not, just because I have that degree, I'm deceiving myself. See what I'm saying? In other words, I'm not going to lie, obviously. Okay, chosen one, that's one thing that we just, no. Very, very dear, oh my gosh. Dude. Okay, we may, it's not lying, but we may very well, we move in silence and stay low key, and we don't utter it all our mind. There's a difference between, right, there's a difference between staying big and not uttering all your mind and bold-faced lying, okay? You have to keep that in mind, discernment. The Lord knows that we live in a fallen world and that people who come up to you, okay, let's say in the store, and they proclaiming, again, back to verse 3, proclaiming that, you know, see, that's what I'm saying, discernment, right? Let me give y'all an example, because this happened. Okay, this happened. And no, it's like nobody's lying or anything. It's just, I don't trust when people do this. Because we know how they want to try and make, know how the devil likes to try and make his lies look believable? Okay, this is where this discernment comes in. And how the devil will always test to see if you will fall for that again and again and again. Remember this. So, it's happened to me. A gentleman, I'm at the store, and he got the buggy, and he's got a couple of salads, salad dressing, or what have you, and a backpack, and approaches me in the store, which, this, not cool, and was putting on the act, and it just didn't feel right to me. You know, it did not feel right to me, which means it's not right. But he was asking if I could help him out. He's trying to buy something to eat, and if I had a little something I could help him out with, and he suggested a particular amount. Wrong. Don't ever do that. Because that told me right there, hold on a second. How do I know? Yeah, I was like, not today. Because I was like, no, because it happened at a gas station one time, and the person that they weren't going to leave until I gave them something. And I was trying to get gas. I was trying to put gas in my car. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to have to get rid of them, because if I don't, they're going to keep on running that mouth. So I was like, okay. They claimed that they needed to put gas in their car. Okay. I gave them a couple bucks. I turned around. Where'd they go? Yeah, they didn't pull up in the gas pump to put that in their gas tank. So when that gentleman came up to me in the store, even though he had food and a couple of salads there or what have you, I was like, yeah. And then by the time I'm ready to check out, where you going to be? Not buying it again. I said, I'm not falling for that again. Which I didn't really fall for it at the gas station, but I like, what am I going to do? I was like, I need to get them out of my way. So I said, okay, but next time, if that ever happens again like that, I'm just going to deal with it very differently, but they're not. Well, because they had a sob story, and I knew better, but at the same time, I was like, they're just going to keep on running that mouth. I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like narcissism in action right there. So that's just another way of them trying to proclaim they're doing something when they're not doing anything, so they're deceiving themselves. I wanted to give you a real world example there of how that also happens. Not just them thinking something of themselves that isn't true, but also doing something that they're not really doing, or that their intention is not there. They're not being truthful. And so then, well, I'm going to jump, okay? But in verse 4, he says, but let every man prove his own work. In other words, let's get it done and get it out there, right? And then we should rejoice in himself alone and not in another. In other words, I mean, we congratulate each other and we applaud one another for each other's accomplishments, absolutely. But we don't rejoice, okay? We're not going to rejoice the work that we've done until it's done. And we can do so in ourselves and not in another. In other words, we don't brag. That's what God's talking about in verse 4 there, in Galatians 6, verse 4. He's talking about not bragging. You get it done, rejoice in yourself alone. Don't go bragging and boasting. That's what narcissists do. And then in verse 5, he says, for every man shall bear his own burden. In this context, he's talking about how we do bear our own burden, meaning even though we share with one another in this growing community of spiritual warriors for Christ, right, helping one another, whereas now he's talking on a personal level, in a way, in our world, like we got to pay our own bills. We got to, I've got to pick up a few things from the store. It's not really a burden, but it's just an example. I'm going to go do it. I'm going to get it done. I don't have anybody else, right? I'm not dependent on anyone but God. So I'm bearing my own burden that way. So if I need help with something, I don't hesitate to reach out. But for the most part, the burden that we bear, okay, in our world for our daily life, okay, paying bills, cooking, things like that, we bear our own burden. But then when we come together, we share. That's how that's supposed to work. And we don't take each other's burden personally. Narcissists will always take burdens and things personally when it's not personal. And never forget how they find ways to make things personal when they're not. If it ain't about them, they find a way to make it about them. Well, they always turn that conversation around and make it about them. They always do. Exactly, running a guilt trip, that's it. And you call them professional hustlers, that's a nice way of putting it. Those are narcissists. That was a nice way of putting it. I gotta look at the clock here and see where we're at here time-wise. Okay, we're hitting the 1 hour mark, y'all. Like I said, we're getting back to business as usual. So for those who are coming in later, I've got some of the and more at the very beginning where I share a major God revelation about the radio frequency and how it can affect certain parts of your body, right, until you become aware of it. Once you become aware that that frequency is affecting that particular area, maybe in the head, okay, your autonomic nervous system, once you become aware, it wakes up in that area and goes, oh, I got work to do. And so going forward, the frequency is not going to have that same negative effect anymore on you because your ANS is back to work there now. So it's really intriguing. I got more about all of that we'll be bringing to you all. Yeah, and don't hesitate to check out those links in the video description below. We got the Academy. That's right. And we've got an updated grant/donation page right on the website. Thank you to all who sow into this ministry. Everything you sow into this ministry goes right back into our growing community of spiritual warriors for Christ. Glory be to God. And on the Patreon channel, I highly encourage y'all, check it out, check it out, check it out. We got things in position for you all. We are serving the kingdom of God in God's reality. And we are staying educated and aware, not just about narcissism and narcissists, but about that radio frequency and how it can have a negative impact on our health until we become aware and we take action and we start make sure that we are intentional with the choices that we make. And remember, for those who are getting started, if you have still got a frozen pizza in your freezer, relax. It's a transition, okay? You got a little at a time, all right, y'all? A little at a time. Nobody says that you got to go out there, you know what I'm saying? Nobody says you got to throw all that stuff away. Don't throw away that money, okay? But just be mindful, okay, of how much more of that you're going to buy in the future. Okay, now there are some things that I did get rid of that I know I'm not going to eat more of because because I got what I wanted out of it. For example, it was on sale. It was a box of frozen fried fish fillet. I got what I wanted out of it. I'm done. So I mean, nothing wrong with that. But I'm going to be more mindful in the future about buying that kind of stuff. You know, I mean, I'm not saying it won't, but I'm going to look better at the ingredient because there were a few things in there I could have done without. So that kind of stuff. So yours truly is on this journey with you. So don't beat yourself up if you do still have a bag of those, chips that might be considered junk food in your cabinet. That's fine. It's just going forward. You know what I'm saying? When you make that decision, okay, you know what? We're going to make better choices. That means going forward from now on, you're going to buy those again? Okay. All right. Now, as far as your autonomic nervous system, your inner child, okay, if it has a little bit of a craving, that's one thing. But I will tell you all, my ANS, we have narrowed it down to one little craving, and it happened to be a baked cheese snack mix, which I feel like if I was going to choose between that and Cheetos, which Cheetos was like a childhood favorite, she's done with that. Little Michelle is done with that. She has come around the mama's way. I think I said these are baked cheese cracker snack mix. It's baked. And it's less salty than the Cheetos. So she come around that, she narrowed it down to just that one and a little here and there. She doesn't even want the whole, right. Well, of course they had the family size box, but I'm like, no, we're not going to get that. We don't need that much. So anyway, that kind of stuff. But eventually that wears off and my ANS is even starting to ask me for things that I would normally go for regarding pumpkin seeds and things like that. So she's even coming back around. So glory be to God. I want to share that good news with y'all so that you know if your inner child is still craving some childhood favorites here and there as it heals, that's fine, a little at a time. But I'm here to share with you all that eventually that does dissipate. It goes away and your autonomic nervous system gets back more into the present with you as you're retraining it through your thoughts. So it takes a little time. That takes time. So yeah, if you've got a cheesecake in the refrigerator and you just now decided you want to make better choices and combat that radium frequency, okay. I mean, seriously, but just in moderation, all right? In moderation. And then how much more of that stuff are you going to buy in the future? I mean, I'm just saying, I do still feed my inner child when it wants a slice of pizza, we're going to give it a slice of pizza. But in the meantime, You know, we are also saying, hey, we got to compromise here. I got that fruit plate in there. I got some grapes and blackberries, and you know, she even liked the muscle food. Okay, so it's a transition. All right, and so I am leading by example and being honest and transparent with y'all. I'm not going to tell you that I didn't go and splurge on one of them fast food burgers last week. I sure did, because my inner child was like, it's funny because the lady that, when I went to go place my order and she asked if I had the app and all of this, I was like, no, I said, I don't have all that. I said, I don't frequent these places. I said, today it's my inner child just got a little craving. And she chuckled. She was like, okay. It's my inner child thing. my ANS. And since then, she's good. Because I was like, okay, well, do you want to go there and get that one? And she's like, no, I don't even want that. She said, I'd rather go to that home-style buffet. I said, okay. I said, we can do that, get a salad and some chicken livers. Okay. So you see, it takes time, but your inner child does catch up with you. And so I don't want any of y'all sitting there stressing about the fact that, oh my gosh, I just bought this big old cheesecake and I hadn't even had any of it yet. And, well, because we're not eating to feed the flesh. But if your inner child wants a piece of that, well, fine. But again, in moderation. And over time, your inner child will stop craving that stuff. Yes. Okay? Because it's happening already in real time. I'm excited about it. You know, I really am. And because I prefer to keep on the healthier side of things. Y'all, by now, many of y'all would know that. Those who are new, you're finding out. So there you go, everybody. I just wanted to get on here and share that with you and remind you, okay, it is a transition. Do not beat yourself up. But make sure you have the intention behind when you go grocery shopping next time. Okay? Progress, not perfection. Okay, remember, it's progress over perfection. We're never seeking perfection. We're not going to get it perfect. No, because we're not perfect. Okay, we're human beings. But as far as making better choices, okay? So if you've got your inner child craving a cheese snack, and you're like, well, can we do the baked? The baked is always a better option, right? So they say, but I'm looking at the sodium content, though, too. Between these two baked goods, which one has the lower sodium count? Aha, that is going to be the one I go with. There you go. Okay? And so, yes, I know cheesecake, huh? Okay, so Chris says he's convinced himself cheesecake is part of his 5 a day. Okay. It is what it is. I don't think cheesecake is necessarily unhealthy. I think for that, it could be like the amount. You know what I'm saying? That's why I said, y'all, keep it in moderation, okay? With a cup of coffee, I got you. Just a little bit. There you go. There you go. That's a good example of moderation, okay? Moderation. Nothing wrong with that. Yeah, and I think well, yeah, honestly, I don't consider it like completely unhealthy. It has some benefits. And, you know, your biological body is going to take nutrients from whatever it is you put in it. Oh, yeah. God designed our bodies so strategically, y'all. And so, yes. And there you go. And that's what it's all about. Your inner child will tell you what it wants, when it wants it. And we learn to cater to it when we need to and keep it relaxed so that you can heal from radio frequency poisoning and the traumatization from it. Remember, radio frequency is used to manipulate the ANS. That means traumatize your autonomic nervous system. Because get it traumatized first, eventually you will follow because your thoughts control your ANS. There you go. So, that wraps up today's Truth Seeker podcast, where we covered some of God's word regarding those emotional burdens that the narcissists continue to take personally, and they want us to bear their burdens, or they want us to take on their burden, and we don't do that. We covered that. Narcissists taking things personally when it's not about them, and if it's not about them, they find a way to make it about them by turning like you can go and you can tell them, hey, you know, guess what, so-and-so, this or that or the other, and they will turn that conversation around and make it about them. That's classic with a narcissist. So be mindful of that. And again, don't take it personal, because it ain't personal. The spiritual battle for the mind is in the mind. That's it. We ain't wrestling against that flesh and blood. For those who need the reference, that's Ephesians chapter 6. Oh yeah, all the way. Make sure you put that armor of God on, and you keep on keeping on. All right, there's tons of different playlists on this channel for wherever you are at in the spiritual awakening. And for those of you who are just now starting out that journey to get to the other side of the rainbow, where you get the balance between spiritual and physical, keep going. Because many of us are living testimony. You can do it. You're meant to do it. God needs you to do it. God wants you to heal. So keep on keeping on and get that balance between the spiritual and the physical, so you can properly discern between who is who and what is what out here in the narcissistic matrix, as we continue combating radio frequencies for healthier living. Sending love and light to all fellow warriors. Thank you for watching, listening, and for your continued support. Till next time, let's show some gratitude to the Heavenly Father, and you keep being you. In Jesus' name, amen.